So the most important thing is to be radically honest with yourself. Tell yourself the truth about where you are today. And don't judge it. Don't judge where you are. Don't judge the feelings that come up. Just recognize them. Hold the space for yourself for them.
So Shafiro, welcome to another episode of YDS Season 3, episode number
2.
Oh. I even know.
Our guest is forward.
That when you said it before.
Do you want to host the show? Should we just leave you?
Maybe give us a link.
Open the show out.
What am I supposed to be saying? Season 3, episode 2.
That's what's up.
This is a platform where we come on to have general conversations around issues that affect us. Affect Amachita, eh?
Amachita.
Yeah, we almost got confused today because hello. But yeah, man, we talk mental health issues, we talk finances, we talk business opportunities. And on today's topic, on today's show, we'll be covering a very important content pillar to the show, which is mental health, zooming in on the healing process.
My name is Mrs. Zomzolo. My host didn't introduce me, aka Siso Styles. It's good to be here. I'm part of the show, by the way. Yeah. What's up?
My name is Taps. Sorry, bruh. Sorry. And
I think it's the lady.
Yeah.
I think she's making us act weird.
To be a distraction, guys.
Yeah. And on today's show, we have Asive Mahlamvu. By profession, you are a data analyst in the finance industry.
Yeah, in the banking industry.
In the banking industry, yeah. And the reason why we have Asive here is not because of the finances.
No.
Asive has a dope, cool blog which focuses on healing. Which is why when I started, I spoke on zooming into healing within the context of mental health. And yeah, her blog is actually called Healing Africa. Healing on purpose, you know. So we are hoping during this conversation we're gonna borrow a couple of methods and some very important insights which Tina as guys we can implement in our day-to-day life, because we there are very few gents who actually explore that space, like who write about healing and all of those stuff. So the name of the blog is Healing Africa. Do you want to tell us about the name?
So I started my own individual journey towards healing, because I wanted to fix myself. I wanted to be okay and to heal from, because we all have traumas that we gather as we grow up. And it was really just a personal journey. I had no idea that I'd one day even start the website at all. And during my own journey, when I was doing my own healing, I realized that, a lot of the traumas that we're carrying are actually coming from so many generations before us, because you go back and you look at, the experiences of your parents, because your primary relationship, which is your relationship with your parents, is really the basis of where all of your relations come from, so to say. And I realized that, this is actually something that has been going on for so many generations. And if I share my own healing process, then it's going to be something that may possibly help somebody else other than me. And mental health hasn't been a discussion that has been in the forefront in Africa in general. In fact, most times when you're going through things, it's like I or whatever. So it was like this journey towards healing Africa, even considering what is this apartheid and the history of Africa and the trauma that we have been through as a whole continent. So that's really where Healing Africa came from.
I'm laughing because Siso had a question around that.
Actually, I did have a question around our traumatic past as a country, and what would be like maybe on just on a broader scale, what could be like an ideal place to start the healing process as a country, because even financially we're struggling, even community-wise there's still a lot of hate within amongst the black people ourselves. So what could be maybe an ideal point of starting to heal as a country from our past?
So I don't have all the answers.
Of course you don't.
But I have an idea for me. And I think it's because I've prioritized my own healing process and my own mental health so much that I've realized that you can give a country all the money in the world. But if we haven't dealt with you can take a pig, give it earrings, put a lipstick on it. A pig is still a pig, right? So it's like, if we're not dealing with the root problems, the mentality, how we see ourselves as black people, and actually generating the love that is already there for ourselves. Because if you think about it, you think why would anyone travel across the continent, across the seas, to come and strip you away of your own power? Which means that there was something there before they even came here. And I think for me it was a matter of it's just a journey of coming back to love, you know, to coming back to loving ourselves as we are, not as how we'd like to be in the future, but just accepting ourselves as we are now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Wow, the sun. Told you guys about the sun. So maybe give us a little bit of context, so that we get an understanding of what is healing. How does healing look for you?
That's actually a very interesting question, because like I explained earlier, like when I started my whole healing journey, like I wanted to fix myself. Because it seemed as though there were things that people understood about themselves, like they had confidence, you know, they were able to believe in themselves so easily, and it wasn't even like a question, like it wasn't anything. So I was like, you know, I want to fix myself as someone who's never gone through these experiences before. And so there's this Japanese way where they take bowls, right? And when after they've broken, and they mend them with gold. Like they mend them with any precious metals. And it's like after you have done that whole process, now the what is this, the intention of the bowl, like it transcends just the purpose of just putting food on it or whatever, but now it's also an emblem of tenacity, of resilience, of being able to come out to the other side and saying that I have gone through these experiences, and I'm not just who I am despite them, but I am who I am because of them. So for me, it is really just taking the lessons. And for me, that's like something that I've really sat on, in that an experience will keep on coming back until you have learned the lesson. So for me, really, healing is an ever, you know, constant learning process. It never ends.
It never ends.
It never ends.
I mean, like going through your blog, you get bits and pieces. That it has to do a lot with your past life, or either your upbringing, whatever the case may be.
For sure.
How did you? Maybe you may briefly share some of those experiences. Briefly, because I want to understand how it must have been a very vulnerable process, putting it out there, you know. And how did you prepare for that?
Okay, so does he want to say something?
Oh, you were distracted by what are you saying? The voice. Okay.
Or project.
My
you must
voice.
project your
Oh,
voice.
I need to project more.
Okay,
awesome. So, for me, I think so. Like we had the conversation earlier on in the week, so you kind of have a little bit of a background to it. So I was born to a teenager. My mom was 14 when she was pregnant with me. And obviously, when you're born to teen parents, they don't have the tools to raise you, and you kind of have, it's like, oh, you know, this child is here now. Now we have to make the most of what we already have, you know. So you become, you know, mdanaga makulu, and sometimes you live like in certain places where, because you're there perhaps just to get an education, and you're not there necessarily with your family, and that exposes you to a lot of experiences, because you know you're abandoned most of the time, and like mama, or you'll never find it in somebody else. It's just not the same. So from those experiences, like I don't know what specific experience you want me to. Do you want me to drill down to the experience?
Just one.
Just one.
I don't know.
If you're not comfortable with it, it's cool. Because I know. The reason why I say it's such a very vulnerable process in the sense that at times there's a cost to it. There's a cost to it in a sense of there are people who might be close to you who don't even know that that's the perception you hold of the events that occurred in your life. You know, as you mentioned, like Kuluso Umakulu. I mean, like you coming out and saying that was a traumatic experience or whatever the case may be. Some may be saying you're a bit ungrateful because the family did its best.
I felt that way myself.
Share just a little bit of that.
I think for me, the experience was not growing up with both of the parents and just feeling the abandonment from both of them, because I think that's what it was for me. It was really feeling a sense of, you know, nobody cares about me, and nobody really is there for me. And when you suffer from that, it comes with you feel a lot of rejection as well. You know, I feel like I'm a mistake. I feel like I'm not good enough. You know, perhaps, you know, I was just an inconvenience in my parents' lives and all of that. So I think for me, that in itself is a very traumatic experience.
Yeah. And when did you start doing the work? When did you come to a realization, I need to heal?
So I think for me, it was always looming. Like from when I was like a teenager, because I was very aware. Like I started reading at a very young age. So even the way that things were, I was like, but this is not how life is supposed to be, you know? So it was really looming for me. And, you know, in varsity, that's when I just like everything, you know, when everything goes wrong, like everything that could possibly go wrong. But I think for me, that was like the breaking point, but also the breakthrough for the beginning of my own healing. And I was very intentional about it, because sometimes we don't have the tools, we don't have access to certain things. And it was only after I started working where I was like, you know what, like I could go and I could buy the car, I could go and I could buy the house and whatever, but that's to me is not priority right now. What is priority is me, you know, kind of with the fixing mentality. That's what it was before. It was, I just need to fix myself first. But that was like the prior perception about the whole healing process before now.
So, should we go into the blog? Wait, what's the blog post?
You can get into the. So no, not in the blog per se, but you mentioned tools. And for some people, we speak a lot about therapy, but it's not easily accessible for a lot of people because of cost and stigma, whatever the case may be. What has been like some of the methods that you have been able to access? I know earlier this week we spoke about, I thought my first point of contact would be therapy. And furthermore, there isn't anything outside of that. What are some of the inexpensive methods
for people to use,
or alternatives to therapy?
So so for me, I started with going to a psychologist, I told you. And then after that, I found a life coach. I don't think it's not like it's inexpensive. I think you just need, if you do have that access to having therapy or a life coach, then, you know, do it and make it a priority, because you really need to prioritize it. Like it needs to not be just, it's something that I just need to do and make it secondary. So for me, one of the books that I got was You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Louise Hay was basically the pioneer of self-development and like self-help and mental health and whatever. She was actually uneducated, and she created this book for people. She started with people who had HIV and AIDS, and then that men actually who had HIV and AIDS, and like that's where she started, and she saw that it was growing, and then that's when she started actually writing the book, you know, in bits and pieces, and writing all of that. So what she does in her book is that like she gives you practical tools, but you know, I would advise anyone to have someone who has been professionally trained in the book itself, because it's like because like self-development is really a very hard process because you have to face the demons that you have basically been ignoring all of your life. And if you have nobody to give you that guide and to kind of like even give you a motivation, a little bit of a push, even if it's a friend who actually cares about such things, then you can purchase that book, and then it actually gives you really practical tools, because she had a lot of trauma in her life as well. Yeah.
Dope. What's the name of the book again?
You Can Heal Your Life. Yeah. Louise Hay.
You can heal your life. Louise Hay.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of Japanese references in season 3. So just to maybe take on, there's an interesting post that you put on your blog about maybe not failing to reach your potential. There's a blog that you put out at the end of the year last year. And of course, now we're in 2020. It's the beginning of the new year. And there's a lot of, 2020, there's a lot of sayings. And there's excitement of the new year. It's a fresh time. People are excited. But you can only truly move on with your life if you review the steps that you've taken in the past. And without people without you accepting what you've done in the past, it's hard for you to move on.
Oh, for sure.
And people try to build on things that are broken, and it never takes place, you know? So what could be is it advice or just maybe a few points that you can share with people to say, look, even if your past year was not what it was, how do I take this new year, literally make it a new year?
Right. So, I love that question. It's a very good question. I think for most of us, right, and this is something that I've struggled with as well, in the sense that most times it's like, you know, it's like even if you have a goal to like lose weight, right? Say you had a goal to lose weight, and you do that by like negative talk towards yourself, and you're like, I hate myself, you know, I need to like lose weight and whatever. I think for me, the first step, but when you do that, also you're neglecting the person that you are today.
Wow. So you need to accept who you are now.
You have to accept yourself, every single part of you, every single, like what is this, like what is this, what causes insecurities, like any part of you that you feel is not good enough, any part of you that you feel has failed, you need to accept that part as it is, today, not have like a thingy saying that you'll only be accepting of yourself only when you are like this, because you neglect yourself today. So the most important thing is to be radically honest with yourself. Tell yourself the truth about where you are today, and don't judge it. Don't judge where you are. Don't judge the feelings that come up. Just recognize them. Hold the space for yourself for them, so that they come, and so that you're able to actually get to the root, like how you're saying now, that we build things from broken things. But it's also because we're afraid to go into the deep parts of ourselves. And it's not because, the misconception is always that, oh my gosh, it's because I'm afraid because I won't be good at this. But it's because you're afraid of the accountability that will come with knowing that you're actually really good at this. That's what you're most afraid of.
I think you spoke. That was give me a shout out. I think you hit the nail. I think when you speak about parts of us that
that are still growing.
Our imperfections and all of those things. You spoke about a trip that you took to Mpumalanga or whatever, and you saw boreholes or whatever the case may be. Do you want to share that analogy, Ganman?
Yes. Okay, so that was such an amazing experience for me. So we went to Mpumalanga with the girls. We had a girls' trip, and you know, like sometimes you wake up. I was on my period. Just close that.
Okay.
All right.
And you know, the hormones start coming up, and you just feel sad, and because you're on a trip. Like, why would you want to be sad on a trip? But it's like, I'm sad. What can I do about it? I'm just sad. I'm just gonna accept it as, you know, as what it is. And before, you know, like when we're growing up, it's like, you're such an ungrateful child. How could you be sad, you know, while we're on this trip? But I was very grateful, because my girls are very understanding. They were very, like, I was just walking behind them, and I was just crying and whatever. And so we're traveling, we're going around God's window, you know, we went to the gorge swing and whatever. And then we get to the Berks like potholes. And it's like this geographic area basically where the mountains have basically been eroded and they've literally become like art, right?
Wow.
Like they look so beautiful, but that is from erosion. And erosion is a very grotesque process because pits and parts of you are stripped away basically. And like it was just so beautiful, and I was just observing them, and I looked at that, and I looked at how even in our own lives we go through that whole process where so many things are taken away from us, and it's painful. It really is, and it hurts, but it's like the beauty that comes after the erosion, because you need to trust in the process. You really need to trust in the process.
And it's hard to trust the process.
It's so hard to trust in the process. I usually even compare like faith and trust, right? So a lot of us, we usually confuse the two, where we're like, because faith is like knowing, like trusting God to do whatever it is that you're hoping that you know you will get done on that year. You're like, God, we can do this. But trust really says that even if this does not happen the way that I see it, it's okay. I will be okay.
Yeah, I think shout outs to Tandogazi who helped us put this episode together.
I'm throwing shout outs.
Shout out.
Should I shout out to my people?
No, sorry. It's very important to bring about Tando, because I always speak to.
She was supposed to come, right?
Yeah. She didn't pull through. Superstar. But people will remember Tandogazi because we did mental health issue.
Run about the same time.
Same time last year. And one of the biggest conversations from last year was she spoke strongly on feeling your feelings and not trying to escape whatever it is that you're going through during that time. I actually recall that now when we have this conversation. So another important factor, self-care and community care, you know, very, very important. How do you make sure that you embrace your process of healing, very well aware that you are a part of community, whether it be your family, because the healing process can be very isolating and lonely, you know? How do you bring them to the party, but without neglecting because people misunderstand what it means. I think that's why a lot of guys
don't go through the process of healing. Because we feel like you're weak. So it's like danga.
You know?
Man of the house.
So there's self-care, there's community care. How do you bring a family to a party without neglecting your process and or downplaying your feelings? Because it will come with shame.
Good question. So as you know, so my mother passed away when I was 16, but I've had to so that relationship, I think for me, the healing that comes with it it's much more easier than the relationship that I have with my dad, which has been, it needs a lot of patience, it needs a lot of love and care and all of those things. It's a very good question that you're actually asking, because I think for me, you just need to be patient with yourself and be patient with the other person, because there's always the temptation of self-righteousness that comes with the healing process, right? And it's like, oh, you look at me like I'm taking my life seriously, I'm going through this whole process, and look at you broke me, you're such a bad person, you're whatever. And unless there's an empathy part of it, right? So for me, but you can only get there once you have given yourself the space to heal first. That is very important. And for me, it was, I went and I spoke to my aunts just to find out a little bit of the background about my dad, because you need to let them in. And I've told my dad, and I'm like, you know, I'm in this healing process and whatever, but he always avoids it. So that's, for me, that's always like, I just want to see where he is with this and whatever, because I don't want to push, you know, things, and I also don't want to be judgmental of his process, because we tend to forget that even in our own processes, whether it's your parent or whether your parents don't owe you anything, and they are God's child as well. Whatever purpose it is that God has for that person, perhaps it's got nothing to do with you. Perhaps it's got everything to do with you, because the people who are the closest to us, like our parents, those people are our teachers, our greatest teachers. Those relationships are your own divine curriculum. So you need, I think for me, like no judgment of the other person, and like just having this self-righteousness because you're going through your whole healing process. But it is tempting to be like, well, you did this, you did this, you did that. But it is okay for you to hold the space for your own feelings and not judge them based on the perceptions that were projected onto you growing up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
You're good.
I'm good.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're gonna have parting ways. So now here's the thing, gents. The reason why we have Asive here, it's something that seems easier for the ladies to go on this very vulnerable process.
Yeah.
But many of the times we are, as Amachita, pushing and putting things under the carpet and not dealing with them, and we end up projecting, you know. And I think I saw something by Charmaine, and we were talking about
this morning. Yeah.
We need to heal and not pass off past trauma as culture, even black culture, you know. So as Amachita, we will bring people like these who are on their own journey. And if you're a guy out there as well and you want to come through to the platform, pull through. Let's have these conversations and let's heal. Let's stop projecting. Stop projecting, kids. You know? Yeah, but shout outs. Thank you very much for coming through.
No, you're welcome.
Do you have any nuggets?
Closing remarks.
Yeah, that's actually, I wanted to comment on what you were saying just now. So I also read a lot of Ian Levinzan's work. My dad hates her, but it's like, whatever. Because the misconception is always that men don't get hurt, you guys don't get cheated on, you don't get betrayed, you don't get, you know, and whatever.
Lying,
but
cap.
they're all lies. They really are. They all lies. But it's also that you guys are always, you know, manipulated into being the man of the house. You know, you are the whatever. It's a brainwashing, actually. And it's like, if a guy goes out and he says that he's been hurt because of this, it's like, what? What?
Why are you so moist?
Why?
White skin nigga.
It's you guys. It's you guys.
He's always hard on me.
It's you guys.
Yeah, and even within your peers, like I meet so many guys who are like, I'm not able to have these conversations with my guys. If I bring this up, they will all laugh at me, which is horrible. And I think that, you know, men really need to change that. Like you guys need to change that for yourselves. You know, I love men, I love women, I love everyone. I'm not. We can coexist. For sure. Yeah, we can coexist. Oh, for
mental
sure.
health, guys. That's a plug. That's where we are. Take care of your mental health. And shout outs. Where can people catch you on the socials?
So I am on Instagram, Asive_Mahlamvu. On Facebook, it's just Asive Mahlamvu. And visit my website, asi-there.com.
Shout out.
We're out.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.